There we go.
Can you see us?
I can see you.
Oh, good.
Good.
Hi.
Hi.
Sorry, my daughter's homesick, and she basically the TV is watching her right now. So I was just dealing with that.
Yeah. No, that's I've been there. That's just life.
It is.
It
It's
is.
life, and I'm so happy you're a mom and you understand.
Oh my gosh, completely times 4.
Times
It's wild.
4.
That's crazy.
That is a
Times
lot
4.
of child.
It is, but I don't have any twins. And so there's my gratitude for that. And then there's also the fact that given that there's 4 of them, usually no one's going through the same thing at the same time. So I get to at least like vary my experience of all that child. Right. Like,
what's the age?
The age
range?
swing is I have a 16-year-old boy. Wow. Which is crazy.
Crazy.
And then the rest are girls, and they go to 13, 11, and then the teeny tiny baby, who's not even a teeny tiny baby, but she's 7.
Oh.
It still feels like a teeny tiny baby in comparison, right?
I can't hear you in the headphones.
My mic's not on.
Huh. I don't know, Casper, if you're listening, but Olivia's not.
My mic.
Oh, now it is.
Now
There we
it
go.
is.
Weird.
That was weird.
Everything's going great.
It's a good day, guys.
We're
Today's
doing
great.
so well.
We're doing
killing
so
it.
well.
We are, because we're not being reactive. We're just responding as it comes.
Oh my God.
That's right.
It's so, we're just responding.
We just went on a trip and it was really fun. But at the end, the tail end, our flight got canceled on the way there. Then it got canceled on the way back. We had to get a hotel, all these things. And we were just like, okay, whatever.
Just surrendered.
And we decided we're just going to kind of be McConaughey
Yeah.
about everything in life.
Because you're just going to keep living.
Right? Just exactly. Just like keep living.
Oh, wait, you know what? We were with Sarah Olson. We said we were, and we told her that we were talking to you today. And she was like, oh my God, please tell Jessica.
I love her so much. What's even weird, well, even add to that, it's because it's all connected, guys.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Sure is.
I was just talking about her this morning, and I was saying that she is one of those women who I think she's so incredibly likable, and that's such a sort of boring and like unimaginative way to describe someone, but it actually feels like it's what's top note to me, because it doesn't matter what you like, she's just likable. Like everything about her is, even like when it's not to say she's not provocative, she can be provocative. And the way she provokes is sort of likable. And the way that she, is kind and sweet and kind of kitty cat is so likable. And she's a teacher and a friend and all that. So whoever's listening, if you don't know Sarah Wright Olson, you should.
I mean,
yes.
Yeah, she really is. It's like this angel of a person just kind of like floating through this world, but just hits on everything, like what you just said.
We were in for the teeny tiny baby, we were moms in preschool. And
right. That's what she said. It was preschool.
So Esme and Josie were good friends. And then we went into, pandemic lockdown and everything else. So that was.
And then you moved to New York?
I moved to New York, yeah.
Oh, wow. What prompted that? Was that?
All the things, but a lot of them actually had to do with children. They had to do with sort of looking around at what adolescence looks like in Los Angeles.
Oh, wow. What prompted that? Was that?
All the things, but a lot of them actually had to do with children. They had to do with sort of looking around at what adolescence looks like in Los Angeles.
Oh,
wonderful.
Yeah,
that's the if you know, you know. It's a lot. And Christopher and I sort of looked around, and none of it looked like anything that we'd grown up with. So there was sort of an unfamiliarity time on top of unfamiliarity. Because again, I always like to say, like with each of the kids, it's the first time that I've ever been a parent to this situation. So I sort of lay down really at the head of things, like, I'm going to just reserve the right to change my mind or get a do-over on this, because this is the first time that I'm doing this. And I don't wouldn't expect anyone to do something the first time and get it exactly right. So whatever kid you're dealing with, it's a nice little entryway into radical acceptance, as well as battling my own inner demons of perfectionism. Being like, I don't fucking know. This could go a lot of ways, right? I'm going to lead with my best foot forward and then see what happens. But that being said, it was unfamiliar to us to be, raising kids that were going into their teenage years and all the stuff that comes with that. And then all the things that we saw adolescents doing also seemed really unfamiliar. It was just like it was lacking the smallness, the face-to-face contact, the face-to-face, all of it, the way that, adolescents talk to each other now. And it seemed like really daunting. And then to put it into a big city made it even more so. So when we didn't have, work reasons to be in the city, we sort of rethought what we wanted, how we wanted to raise the kids and what environments we wanted them to be in. And so that just, then invited a greater conversation and greater reimagining with, again, the pandemic sort of, I think, hit the reset button for so many people. And it allowed you to think outside of the box. And then the box moved to New York.
The box was an apple crate.
And is it hitting those notes you were looking for?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
The smallness factor. We sort of moved to, we are just outside the big city, if you will, but we live in a small town.
Awesome.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I remember like one of the first months that I was here, I was at one of the, I'm going to sound, and by the way, as I talk about where I live, you're going to, at a certain moment, you're going to be like, you don't live on Little House on the Prairie. So like, give it up. What are you talking about? but I would be at, I think I was about a month into living here, and I was on the sidelines of fill in the blank soccer game. Right. And it's beautiful, and it's fall, and the foliage is, all the things, crispy weather, sweaters, all like just fill in the blank of all your imagination of East Coast fall. And I was holding my car keys, and one of the moms looked at me and said, you obviously haven't been here for very long. And I think she was being friendly, but there was a little to it. I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, you don't need to take your keys out of the car.
What?
Pardon me? But I live in a place where you don't have to take the keys out of the car.
Whoa.
So now I'm wherever I am, like if I go to the grocery store, anywhere, I don't take my keys out of the car.
I hope there's no criminals listening.
They don't know where you are.
I know.
Exactly. If so, follow me to wherever it is.
Yeah, exactly. That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Wow.
But then like
envious.
Truly, I'm on a train and I'm in the city, and you have to like code switch quickly. Like,
Right.
Okay, that's the place I live in at home, and then now I'm going somewhere else that's different.
Wow. I really I have this dream fantasy of being able to do that or something different. Or, I grew up in LA, born and raised, still here, have my kid, but like just the fall foliage, all of those things. But it's amazing that you guys just decided and you did it and you're doing it. And you're like, it's actually Williamsburg. No, I was kidding.
No, but it was very much a leap, and the net will appear. And again, if you think of however your family system is set up, that whoever the partners are that are, or the single that's raising the family, that's the leader, most of the time the kids are kind of looking at those people and trusting that wherever they're going next, it's going to be okay.
Right.
And if those people think it's going to be okay, it will. But I mean, I have this, I can't even give anyone credit for it, but it's just become like such a mantra in my life. It's like, everything will be okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end. It's just this whole theory of like figure out ability. And I just haven't yet had to think that I could go up a mountain and not down, or vice versa. You got to figure it out. So
I agree.
Gotta figure it out.
Set up that whoever the partners are that are, or the single that's raising the family, that's the leader, most of the time the kids are kind of looking at those people and trusting that wherever they're going next, it's going to be okay.
Right.
And if those people think it's going to be okay, it will. But I mean, I have this, I can't even give anyone credit for it, but it's just become like such a mantra in my life. It's like, everything will be okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end. It's just this whole theory of like figure out ability. And I just haven't yet had to think that I could go up a mountain and not down, or vice versa. You got to figure it out. So
I agree.
Gotta figure it out.
Yeah. I think that when you're looking at choices like that, my family, we've moved a lot now with like different schools and moving the kids. And I kind of feel the same way. It's like, as long as the people operating the ship know what they're doing and we're making conscious choices, there's no regret. It's just different circumstances. So then we arrive at those circumstances and we say, okay, well, how are we going to navigate it? It's not like, we've been talking about that with schools. Like, it's not, is this a right or wrong choice? There is no such thing. It's just different choices.
Yeah.
Right. And then you're like, okay, we're in this. How did they adjust? How did the kids adjust?
Well, I completely think that everything you said is completely true. And I would add there's no exact right choice. Every choice brings a different set of consequences. And sometimes those consequences, intended or unintended, are things that you can or cannot live with, right? So you're like, I fucking hate this choice. This school sucks. And I wish I wasn't in this. And does the leader of that system say, okay, why? Right? Like, why does this school suck? Or why does this choice suck? Or whatever it is. And then what are our choices now?
Exactly.
And it's like that flexibility, I think, is just that really like infinite mindset. Like, okay, great. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And I'm going to be on my toes about it. I'm not going to be on my heels and sort of go, well, that's just the choice we made.
No.
You know what I mean?
Choices,
like,
you can change your choices.
Totally. Like, if we'd come here and it hadn't been great, we would have figured that out.
Yeah. And there's something to extract from all of it.
Yeah.
Like, even when we made a choice, we switched my kids' schools, and then I decided it wasn't right once we were there. And I was like, this doesn't feel right. It's not right. And then we made another choice, but what we extracted from that experience carried over and made our next choice more clear.
Completely.
Right?
And how great is that?
Yeah.
And that you didn't look at it, or you didn't frame it as though it had been a failure to try the other thing, right? It was like, the trying is the part that's got the meat. It's going to be the thing that it's going to create the friction, or is going to create the piece, whatever that is. And then you have one more piece of information about who you are or who your kids are. And that then helps you lead to, further decision making.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's kind of how we went into all this.
Yeah. I just think because I just made a decision to switch my daughter into this school, just the anxiety of everything and replaying things in your mind constantly when you can't sleep and you're in bed, and then it's just like this hamster wheel. And to get a grasp on that has been such a challenge. And I keep hearing you say things that just sound like the best mottos, quotes, affirmations, mantras to live by,
Yeah.
But it's true. And I feel like it takes work. Have you done a lot of work to get there, or is it kind of just your natural way of being?
I think that I consider myself a work in progress all the time. So, I think that sometimes I'm actively doing the work, and then I think I'm sometimes passively doing the work. I think I'm actually going to say this for the first time. I'm having a discovery while talking to you guys. I think that, so I was raised by a single mother for a very long time. And then I became part of a bigger family where I was the big sister to many. Like, I went from being raised as an only child to sister of...
How old were you when you gained the family?
It's a very strange timeline because things came in sort of increments. But I think that I was solidly an only child in my mind until I was about 12 or 13.
Okay.
And then a lot more came. And then I was squarely the first girl, daughter, child in the family system. And now that it's all said and done, with all parents having had all their children, the oldest of 10.
Whoa.
So,
What?
yeah.
Wow.
I didn't realize there was that many.
No.
There's a lot. There's
Okay.
so many.
That's a
And so I think that my little discovery in that moment was I probably spent the first, obviously very formative years in a binary system with my mother that was codependent completely. And I probably pretty much thought about her and thought about me. Those were my thoughts, right? So when you say, did you do a lot of work? Again, I would say passively and actively, but the active work would probably be becoming a mother in partnership, in marriage, and then as an adult daughter, you know, like dealing with the expectations that you have of your grown parents and they of you. You start doing, I think, about others in a really organic way that I think led me to a lot of mantras and understandings about how I think that maybe we all feel, possibly as a collective, you know, humankind, right? Like how we relate. I think relating was something that I thought the admission was free, and I actually don't think that anymore. I think that there's a really lovely price that you pay when you enter into relationship with people. And I love all the memes too on Instagram and everything else. But I remember there's something, I'll get it wrong, but it was something like, it was about the relationship between people who are in therapy versus not in therapy. And it was something to the extent of people in therapy are doing all the work of the people who aren't in therapy.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, I've seen it.
And I was like, yep, fuck. Well, that's a little unfair, right? Like, I think I need to look at people in my life who I think might not be doing their therapy and asking for a reciprocal situation.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Completely.
It really does. Because you end up doing too much heavy lifting where you're trying to face all these things. And if those around you aren't, it becomes an uneven situation, right?
Well, yeah, you're weighted down by it, and there's no counterweight, right? So, I mean, we literally look at scales. It's like if one side is all the way at the bottom, like dragging, you know, that's not going to be so good.
Right.
Well, it's also like, it sounds to me like there's a freedom in it for you, which we're huge on sharing these kind of things with people. It's like, you don't have to carry so much alone. And it sounds like you grew up kind of having that focus of like, okay, it's me and my mom. That's a lot of self, right? And then you go through, you become a mom and you realize there's so many other humans to share in the collective with, right? I personally think, and like, I'm sober, and in the program I'm in, it's like they say one of the biggest freedoms you get is the bondage of self. And I'm like, oh, wow. So that is actually something we need freedom from? Yeah, because the bondage of self is crippling. It's not comfortable. It's not fun. And it's quite miserable, right? So then if you get therapy or you get help or you get community or children or anything you connect with outside of yourself, you get a moment of reprieve from that.
Yeah. No, for sure.
I know, it's just like, yeah, absolutely.
And but it's interesting though, because I think that whatever modality you dip into or subscribe to or feel the greatest sense of belonging with, it looks different, right? So like, how do you get teased into that? How do you?
Usually through suffering.
Well, no, I mean, I totally know what you're talking about, but I mean sort of like in the positive way of like, is it, again, total self-disclosure. I used to talk about myself a lot.
Right.
And clearly we're in a spot where we're talking about our experiences, so that doesn't count. But she says, hopefully,
we want you to talk about yourself.
Yeah, you're here to talk
about yourself.
But I think that there was a moment where someone really important to me said, I really need you to get more curious.
That's the word.
I was like, what do you mean? Because from where I was sitting and from my perspective, I had squished curiosity into the same the part of the file cabinet that was, I'm a fixer. I'm a people pleaser. I'm constantly looking at other people for cues and how do we do this and how are you feeling? And like over empathizing with how do I keep my room status quo and everyone's happy and everyone's good and feeling. So I thought curiosity was in that. I thought that my caretaking was curiosity. I thought that my showing up to help things when they went wrong was curiosity. And it's not.
No, that's your comfort.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all self, right?
Yeah.
It's really mind-blowing when you discover that. Because you're like, oh, that's all for me.
Yeah.
I'm making sure everybody's okay, so I feel comfortable.
Yeah. 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 Which is like the people pleaser, fixer, hero child. You know, that's there's another expression in that. It's like, I'm not okay until you are.
Right.
Which is, I don't know, very confusing too to me, because what I never understood in that was I've got opinions. Like, I'm not a shrinking violet, not afraid to say what I think. I don't know that people in relationship with me would. Actually, let's be honest. I got pulled by my nose into being curious, kicking and screaming. No, I already thought that I was. So I was like, I don't know. This might be a you problem, not a me problem. And then I realized, okay, like this could be a me problem.
Wow.
Whoever said that to you is an incredible friend.
Yeah.
Whoever that was.
Yeah.
Because those are not things that are comfortable to say to people.
Yeah.
Wow.
Whoever said that to you is an incredible friend.
Yeah.
Whoever that was.
Yeah.
Because those are not things that are comfortable to say to people.
Yeah.
And they put what's best for you first.
Yeah. Well, that was my husband.
Oh, we love him. Yeah.
Yeah, you should stay in that.
We like him.
Yeah. But it was a heartfelt invitation, and it was hard won and then, responded to. So and that kind of trust, is again earned.
I want to go back to this is selfishly about me, so polar opposite.
Yes, actress. No. Yes, actress. Sister Rachel.
Yeah, so I just want to, stay on topic here.
She's like, have you seen the OC?
Have you ever?
Yes, I did.
I need to start singing like the theme song. I'm a single mom and I have my daughter, and it's just us a lot of the time. And we are very codependent. So when I hear you talking about the first 12 to 13 years of your life being that soul check, because I have all these my daughter is you're never allowed to have another kid. This is also, not that I'm planning on it, but it's just, these are the conversations. It's just her. She is my world. I am hers, all of it. So I want to know, how did it go for you when that all changed and transitioned and accepting everything else? And this is a selfish question because I don't know what the future holds, but I do wonder.
I mean, first of all, I obviously can only bring my experience to it. My inclination is to always front load the positive, because it actually is, I think, the most important in any given situation. And the positive would be that you have an unbelievable connection to your child. And it exists only in this space because it's so unique to you. You both will show up for each other and know each other in ways that likely and possibly no one else will ever. On some level,
except for the Gilmore Girls.
There's also another one that I saw. One of my daughters watching Ginny and Georgia. Although they finished watching
Oh,
Gilmore
yeah.
Girls.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yes.
oh my God. I mean, that was a true gift. One of them said, what should I watch next night? I actually far prefer going back than forward. And it's wild to watch a show, by the way, that has no, like, none of the stuff that we see every day, right? It has like, there's no social media, there's no phone, like no one's really picking up their phone even. Like the Gilmore Girls were
I love that.
phone free. And by the way, my daughter always, and we live in a small town, says all the time, she's like, I just want to live in that place. What's it called? Like, I don't remember what it's called.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, but I did. I had a show and we used the same town.
Is that Heart of Dixie?
Yes.
Yeah, called Heart of Dixie. Yes,
Yeah.
and it was the same, and it was like, oh, this is the same as, and I can't think of the name. It's not like Sleepy
it's like
Hollow,
Sleepy
Hollow.
something.
I don't know.
It's something magical.
It's not Sleepy Hollow, but it's
that sounds like fairies live there.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
But yeah, and by the way, it's funny because I listen. I always hear it wherever I go, Gilmore Girls. But I hear it, and I am actually always amazed by. It's just I mean, I guess it's not so unique. I'm sure there's many families that are like that, but there's some, when you know, if you're in that club, you're in that club and you know what it is. I mean, I think that the most incredible thing was like to know someone, to know another human being like that is pretty special. I think obviously what ends up coming into my mind first and foremost is like, it's sort of ends up being an easy place to have unboundaried behavior with no ill intent, with totally yummy, incredible intent for closeness and again, the belonging and the yumminess and all that. And it's still unboundaried.
Right.
And, or can be. I'm not saying yours is. I'm just saying it can be that, plus or minus parent or child, it's hard to figure out where the lines are between you and me, mom and child. And also, if something does go wrong, there's no other. So like, I think it's really, I watch in my family, the thing that's totally new to me and I am learning and have a front row seat to, and I feel really, really grateful for, is that in our home, in our marriage, and with our children, when there's friction or when there's a rupture between Christopher and one of the kids or myself and one of the kids, that kid or that parent isn't alone, right? Like that parent can go to the other parent and be like, fuck, man, like, oh, what a dick. Like, why did they do that? And the other parent can be like, I know that sucked. That was really hard. Or, you know what, maybe just saying I overheard that and I would try this or whatever it was. Same thing for the kid, right? The kid can go to siblings or the other parent and be like, Mom was awful. She does not understand me. And you can like walk it off or talk it off or whatever, and then come back together. In the single parent situation, it's harder. And I think that maybe once I got old enough, I used my friends. My case was also a little bit more specific because my mom was an actress that was traveling all over the world. And so I was really special. I think obviously what ends up coming into my mind first and foremost is like, it sort of ends up being an easy place to have unboundaried behavior. And totally with no ill intent, with totally yummy, incredible intent for closeness and again, the belonging and the yumminess and all that. And it's still unboundaried. And, or can be. I'm not saying yours is. I'm just saying it can be that, plus or minus parent or child, it's hard to figure out where the lines are between you and me, mom and child. And also, if something does go wrong, there's no other. So like, I think it's really, I watch in my family, the thing that's totally new to me and I am learning and have a front row seat to, and I feel really, really grateful for, is that in our home, in our marriage, and with our children, when there's friction or when there's a rupture between Christopher and one of the kids or myself and one of the kids, that kid or that parent isn't alone, right? Like that parent can go to the other parent and be like, fuck, man, like, oh, what a dick. Like, why did they do that? And the other parent can be like, I know that sucked. That was really hard. Or, you know what, maybe just saying I overheard that and I would try this or whatever it was. Same thing for the kid, right? The kid can go to siblings or the other parent and be like, Mom was awful. She does not understand me. And you can like walk it off or talk it off or whatever, and then come back together. You know, in the single parent situation, it's harder. And I think that maybe once I got old enough, I used my friends. My case was also a little bit more specific because my mom was an actress that was traveling all over the world. And so I went to like 13 different schools before I was 13.
Wow.
I was always a new girl. So I didn't have a ton of familiarity. And then when I got into my adolescence, I really did. And that was, I think, for sure, when I felt like my life took off. Yeah.
I think too,
when I felt like my life took off. Yeah.
I think too, we both grew up with single moms. And I think there is that kind of like, the way you're describing it, it feels like, it's almost like there's this ownership over the mom. Because you don't have to share her with another adult. So it's like, you know, like we still kind of have this hook into our mom that
like you're mine.
You're mine.
That's true. Yeah.
Oh, I think that's true for me too.
Yeah. Was it hard to share her once you got to that? I mean, because you had to share her with a lot of people all of a sudden.
It was very hard to share her when I was young. And I didn't do very well away from her. I didn't like that.
Yeah. My daughter tried to park herself in the podcast room right now.
She's sick.
Because she's sick. She was like, can I just lay on the couch?
Yeah, I'll be so good. I'll just lay here. By the way, I would say that from I don't know what your all's experience was, but in my experience of being an only child of a single parent, I am your girl for infinite adaptivity. I can go into any room. Yep. I don't know if I can do it successfully. I'm not saying that. I'm saying I can though. You know, I'm not afraid of those things, and I'm very well aware that anything can happen. And so I think that that's kind of a superpower, because I don't know that that happens for, you know, others.
I have a question about your siblings. We had Sasha on.
Oh yeah.
Who?
Oh, you did.
Oh my goodness. She's so cozy and she's just like cozy and loving and like
she's so sweet
and kind. And you are so relatable and like present and right there. And obviously your family is maybe the most successful family on the planet, like on planet Earth. How in the heck does that happen? Because I meet we grew up in LA, right? And so you meet a lot of people with far less, and you guys have every reason under the sun to be dicks.
Right.
Let's just say it like it is. It's true.
Yeah. No, I hear that. Well, first of all, thank you. And second of all, she is cozy and she is so loving and she is full of so much talent. I mean, she has so much talent, and I'm so proud of her. You know, I'm really proud of her. And I see her in her marriage now, and I see her as an aunt, and she comes into the house and sits down at the piano and plays, you know, Taylor Swift songs and sings with the girls, and it's so magical. And I'm like, I can't do that. You can do that. It's really like a real superpower. And I really, to your question, I think was a question. I've heard, I hear that. I hear people say that, where it's like people have less I mean, I guess that's the question, right? Sorry, I'm talking in circles for a second.
It's a total question. It's how, given, there's people that, I think entitlement is a real problem in our society.
I've heard, I hear that. I hear people say that, where it's like people have less. I mean, I guess that's the question, right? Sorry, I'm talking in circles for a second.
It's a total question. It's how, given, there's people that, I think entitlement is a real problem in our society right now. Even for an example, we were in a car the other day and the driver was shocked that we would open our own doors. And he's like, you guys, it's disgusting out there.
Yeah, nobody opens their own doors. I almost think it's, you know what? I think it is. Also, I would add to the entitlement, or I would say that maybe entitlement could be split apart. Sometimes it's actually grandiosity.
Yeah.
It's actually like I'm going to this immoderate place of I'm so great when maybe if you really talk to the inside of that person, they don't think they're so great. But they put on this like, I don't know what. I agree with you. I think if I were, again, I was thinking about the total question. It's like, I think when you meet people who have resources, whatever that is to you, right? If it's education, if it's money, if it's whatever it is, you have a hope for what they're going to be like, right? Like someone who has a super incredible education, you hope that they're really smart. Someone who has, money, you hope that they're generous. Right. Someone who, whatever that is. And I think that oftentimes people can be disappointing.
Of course.
Right. And I think that there's so many different things at play for any given example of that. I feel like when I first started working, I remember being really shook that I had grown up on these sets where the best of the best, right? I mean, you watch Tom Hanks act. He's on time. I remember being really shook that I had grown up on these sets where the best of the best, right? I remember being really shook that I had grown up on these sets where the best of the best, right? I mean, you watch Tom Hanks act. He's on time. He knows his lines. Makeup and hair is delightfully happy next to him. There's been no shitstorm that he's created in the trailer that morning. There's been no AD or producer that's been called in to put out a fire. Yeah. He comes to work. He does his job beautifully. And Sasha and I, in this example, would be people who had a front row seat to that. We got to sit next to, our dad who was doing his work too, because we'd already seen all the work that he'd done to get there, to be sitting in that seat, right? The preparation, the storyboard drawings, the musings, the staring off into space while conjuring. Like we'd seen all that. So we knew what his preparation was. We then see Tom Hanks' preparation. And you put that all together and you're like, well, that's the synthesis, right? That's great filmmaking. That's great storytelling. That's what you do when you go to work. And then I started working in far inferior situations, by the way. Not inferior, like I'm judging the people, but like not the set that he was
I get it.
on.
Yeah.
And I was like, motherfuckers don't know their lines.
Oh. Right.
People are late. People have started a whole thing in the hair and makeup trailer that they want people to come in and solve. And I'm like, I don't think that's what I want to be.
Yeah, right.
I don't want to be in the epicenter of that. That's not. No. So I think the answer, again, if I'm getting it right to your question, is we had incredible role models.
Yep.
We had incredible role models in having very inspired artists, both of our mother and our father. We had accountability to each other and to others. We had a real, I feel very much like both of my parents who raised me cared very much about waking up in the morning with purpose.
Yes.
Whatever that was. And going back to Sarah Wright Olson, your purpose can be in parenting. Your purpose can be in writing. Your purpose can be in finance. There's no right or wrong purpose. But waking up with it is a really good start. And the times in my life where I didn't have purpose, which often you don't as an actor in between jobs, was tough for me. I sort of would be a little rudderless, a little like, where do I put all this energy? Where do I put these thoughts? What do I do? And going back to what you're saying, I just put them into thinking about me. That works. That's a really deep well. Anyways, but I think that it's that. I think that it's great role modeling. I think that it's thinking about others. I then again, at whatever level you're at, what invitations you're getting from people you're in relationship with, it's staying married to people who ask you to get curious, and to not being defensive. And again, I love it more than anything. It's like, I absolutely used to think it was important, crucial, and absolutely best to react when something happened. And my ongoing work, if you will, has been to shift that to responding. And the difference in those words has meant a lot to me personally. I can breathe a little better.
Yeah. That's the work.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Right.
It's the space in between, what is it? The space in between stimulus and response.
Yeah. Yes. And calibrating like in real time. Like, oh man, that really pissed me off. I am so mad about that. And having to actually sit there with your heart racing and your sweaty armpits, pretending to listen to what they're saying next, because you actually can't even hear it. You're so pissed. But sticking with it and waiting for that heart rate to come down and your armpits to stop sweating. And then you can you finally hear their voice again.
Right.
And if you stay in it, you can get there. But it's really easy to be like, wah, 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 you talk, and now I'm gonna whatever, and then it's done. And that's so much harder to recover from. I also feel like at a certain point, I got sick of trying to recover. You know, like when you're reactive, you just, I don't know, you just sort of like, you try to slay everything. It's so much harder to recover from. I also feel like at a certain point, I got sick of trying to recover. You know, like when you're reactive, you just, I don't know, you just sort of like, you try to slay everyone.
Yeah.
Right. You know, it's like, that's, I don't know what that is. It's like,
it's just ready for combat.
Yes, fully. Yeah. Yes. Ready. And then whatever happens, it's the kill or be killed for sure.
Was it one of your daughters that went to the Oscars?
Yes, Eve.
Nicole, one of our best friends, dressed her.
Chavez. Gosh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes,
Nicole
Chavez.
She's our 20-year deep. Like, we started together. She was like, we worked on the OC, and she's like, I want to be a stylist. Can you be my first client? And we were friends, and she was in costumes on the OC.
Yeah.
That's where it started. Anyway,
she's the best.
Beautiful. I just put that together.
Best. Yeah.
Right now. I was like, wait, that's probably your daughter.
Yes. Eve. Yes. And she was, and it was such a kind experience too, which, I mean, I don't know, 13 years old and you get to go to the Oscars with your grandpa.
I mean, and she looked gorgeous, the dress, everything. And just, what a cool moment.
That's
we needed
amazing.
to acknowledge that.
Yeah. She really like, I mean, I think that Nicole would agree. She walked through it with real grace. Like she had some, because again, it's that adolescent brain, right? It's like, I care so much. It's everything you don't want to be as an adult. It's, I care so much what everyone thinks of me, right? Yeah. So that's the starting place that we sit in. I care so much what everyone thinks about me. I only think about myself, what others think about me or what people report back to me. I define myself by that. I create my self-image because of it. It's everything. And then we slowly creep towards that understanding that it's really only what you think of yourself that matters, that you bring to relationship and the stories you tell yourself about yourself. Yep. And so to watch her at 13 be in an extremely unique and privileged position, to be playing dress up and to borrow a dress that gets put on your body and in this instance just fits so perfectly, and to have your mom and your grandma there and then to get ready and but with all people, like, the hair and the makeup and the like all this silly stuff that's so important, obviously, be done by these beautiful artists that have been in your parents' lives for a really long time. And then when she walked out the door, she was so excited. There was no like invisible line to cut. There was no tethering that was like, oh, never was there a moment of like, oh, wait, you're not going. She walked out the door with him, and see, now I'll cry about it, is that what I saw was that in my life at her age, I didn't have, it just wasn't as great a sense of ease. There were lots of stuff going on. There was transitions, there was marriage, there were new siblings, there was so much happening that I didn't have with him, that just seamless, like you walk out the door and they've got their arms around each other and that he's got her and she's got him. And I just didn't have that.
Yeah.
And when I saw them walk out the door with it, I very much felt replete. I very much felt like I got that. Ooh. And again, it wasn't about me, but I happened to be there and watch it happen. And so it's like we double got it because she got it and I got it because she got it. And it was just so beautiful. And she had the best time.
Aw. And your other daughters were fine with it.
Do you want to know the absolute fucking magical miracle that happened?
Yes.
Her two little sisters were as excited, if not maybe more, watching at home on TV.
No.
And
I'm gonna cry now.
For the hold on, because this is the best part, because you can't have the great without the shit.
Oh.
They were able to name their jealousy. They were able to say, oh my gosh, in a perfect world, like I would want that. And like, isn't that dress so perfect on Eve? I hope I look like that one day. Yeah. I hope that I get to pick a great dress. I hope I get to go. They named it. They weren't blind to yes. And they were not blind to the importance of what she was doing, how she was doing it, and how magical it was. And saying like, oh, I don't need that. I'm fine at home.
Right.
Take out pizza for dinner watching you. They were like, oh, wow, that's really amazing. And I wish I could have that. I'm really happy for you. Yeah, it was the and. It was not the but. One wasn't in lieu of the other.
And it doesn't have, we talk about that all the time. We're like, two things can exist at once.
At the same time. I didn't learn about paradox for a long, like it took me a long time, paradox.
Yeah. And so I want to go back to one thing, because you said that you got to experience that with her, right? And you're like, oh, it's not about me, but it is. Because I think that as a marker, as a parent, if we can give to our children the things that we didn't get, we're winning.
Yeah. No, that's where the repleteness comes. That's where you sort of like, those are the moments that have the spackle. They like spackle in the holes.
Yeah.
Like I love fill in that part. That's right. Spackle.
Yeah.
And I think that I actually deeply believe, although it sounds a little like abstract, I actually do think that we have the power to change, our generational traumas and our DNA in that.
1,000,000.
Yeah. And so again, Eve will never have the story of not being in relationship with, a together, all together now, for better or for worse family, right? Like she knows what that is. That wasn't my story. That being said, I found that story.
Right.
And all these stories can all happen at the same time. So yeah. And again, I mean, to go back to what you were saying, Rachel, I would still say that there's some particular brand of magic in the part of the story where there's, the single mom and the little girl. I think it gave me things that
It's going to make me cry now. We'll just pass it around.
We'll just pass it around. Pass around the tissues. Yeah.
I for sure wouldn't be who I am. And I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. It's been like a weird, like heavy morning with it, just because she's home sick and we have all this work going on and I have to go for an MRI at 3. I'm trying to like figure out what to do. And you know what I mean? And just like, it's just really, today was just a lot of that. But anyway, I'm happy that we got to talk to you today with that.
You know what's weird is that my phone was on. My phone's on silent.
Yeah, always.
At all times. No matter what. I never have it on. And it was just on and it was Nicole calling.
Oh my gosh.
Look at that.
I was like, that is so
about
weird.
Her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We want to do just a couple of fun questions. And then I also want you just to quickly tell us about Call It What It Is, because that's very exciting. Your podcast. That's
Thank you.
coming out.
Yes.
First, what's the last thing that you Googled?
Rachel Bilson. I was like, well, I'm imagining that she's figuring out, different things about me that might not be top note or right there. And I'm like, I know who she is, and I've watched all your stuff, so I know who who you present to be. But I was like, maybe there's some other information here that I would like to look up.
Oh God,
that's good.
I can't imagine what you came up with. Yeah, there is stuff out there.
All good things. All good things.
Oh my goodness, that's so funny. Do you want to ask one?
I'll pull one. I'm just going to pull blindly here. Well, I know your answer to this, but let's see. If you could save your children or your partner, who would you save?
Oh my God, that's a terrible question.
Yeah.
That's like the ultimate Sophie's choice question.
Yeah.
Not answering that.
You don't have to answer it.
You can play.
Okay, what Sex and the City character are you?
Oh, that's rough.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, well, it's like, who do you, I'm going to have to not overthink this. I think that I would want to be Carrie.
Yeah.
Do you see how I really winced and had a hard time saying that I wanted to be the leading lady in my own life?
Huh. Yeah.
But I mean, obviously that was not like she was the only leading lady.
No.
But yeah, I don't know. Maybe even just maybe it's just that I liked her outfits the most. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked her thoughts to herself. I liked the articles. I love all that. Yes. Okay.
All of it.
I mean, she's Carrie.
If one song had to play every time you walked in a room, what would it be?
These are tough questions.
I know. They're hard on the fly, for sure.
These are tough questions. I don't know. I don't know. All I do is listen to Taylor Swift anymore because of my children.
Yes.
I mean, I probably would do it. And sometimes I actually, even when they're gone.
Yeah.
Questions.
I know. They're hard on the fly, for sure.
These are tough questions. I don't know. I don't know. All I do is listen to Taylor Swift anymore because of my children.
Yes.
I mean, I probably would do it. And sometimes I actually, even when they're gone.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
So I don't know. Listening, and then I'm pinpointing the ones where I'm like, oh, this one, she's going to be obsessed with this one. Or I start finding ones that I want to replay over and over because those are going to be the ones, I don't know.
Yeah. No, I know. And the girls always, I have to sit with her albums for a minute. And I actually know that I have to. I listen to them all. Mm-hmm. And then it takes me really, the girls are the shepherds. They bring in the ones that are the ones that I end up loving the most. We keep listening to Thank You, Amy. And I have to say that it's a great song. And it was funny because it really got me to thinking about a situation in my own life. And it was she's got the screaming at the sky and the how fucked up life can be and how unkind people can be and how just terribly unfair the whole thing can be. But there's this thing at the end that happens, which is that I hear it as without that resistance, without that thing to bump up against, she wouldn't have what she has.
Right.
She wouldn't be who she is. All of this wouldn't have come to be. So I think that it's I don't know. There's just some really great life lessons in all of it.
I know. I think when I say I listen to it, it's more of the helicopter mom. I mean, my daughter's so innocent that I'm also what does she not need to hear? What is she, but that's just me being me.
Oh,
anyway.
gosh.
Okay. So I'm not going to just cavalierly, I'm going to front load it by saying, I know what I'm about to say is oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened. But I had an occasion to sit with Taylor for an hour and a half many, many years ago. And at the time, my oldest was 5 or 6. Mm-hmm. And he was really into that song, Pumped Up Kicks. Do you remember that song? Like, you got to run, baby, run, outrun my gun.
Oh, yeah.
The kids with the okay. It was super popular. It was on the radio all the time. And it was about outrunning a gun. It was about a high school shooting, right? And I remember saying to Taylor, how does one, like, you're in the music business, like, how does one reconcile themselves as a parent to letting kids listen to songs that have lyrics that are either whatever, that are somehow provocative? And I remember her answer being a lot more complete than what I'm about to say, but this is the part I took away, which was, for kids, it's really the feeling of the beat. It's the feeling of the bridge. It's the feeling of the anthem. It's like the, if you didn't have any words, like the thump. It's that brings the kids in, unless the words at that point. And then when they get older and they're adolescents and then adults, then they're decoding the language and creating the story and understanding what the story and the lyrics are. And that made me feel better.
No, I think she's absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah, because I see them understanding and interpreting the words in such a different way. Because our 7-year-old, again, she's the 4th. So she's in it all, like
all of it.
And you know what? It's wild because, the older one, it's like, oh my God, don't say fuck. And like, he thought the worst word in the world was the S word. And that was stupid, which I still will argue is the worst word.
It's not a good word.
It is.
It's a terrible word. But now Josie will listen to all of the Taylor Swift, hear fuck a million times, or hear fuck a million times because, by the way, I say fuck a lot.
Because I say
all the fucking time.
Yeah, all the fucking time. She never says it. Like, she would never use it. She knows it's not her word to use. And we talk a lot about language, like what words are yours to use, which ones you can put in that toolbox and use all day long, and which ones you cannot. And which ones are lazy words and which ones are, which ones are, I don't know. It's just, we talk a lot about words because I think that words carry so much more meaning than people in our present day culture think that they do.
Yeah. They carry
and I
weight.
carefully consider my words, and and sometimes, by the way, that really slows me down. But mostly I think I'm grateful for it.
My little one, my 5-year-old, learned the F word, and we're like, that's not a word for you to use. Da, da, da. So now he'll get upset and he'll say, he doesn't talk all the way, but he was like, I really want to say the F word. And I was like, okay, I get the feeling you're trying to convey. Yeah. So now instead of saying it, he'll say, I want to say the F word, And we're like, yeah, I get the feeling.
Yeah.
But it's so funny that's what he does, because he gets it's the moment for that.
Yeah.
But it's not for him.
Yeah. Yeah. I also, what, another thing that we used to do, or things that I have done, and I have no idea if they work for other people, by the way, but nowadays I will sort of will allocate a space. So for me, it's like the car, like what happens in the car stays in the car. Say whatever the fuck you want. Like whatever. And by the way, all of it, like, because I'm not going to judge, right? Like, I'm actually saying it's because I feel like everybody wants a shortcut from conflict to resolution. Nobody wants to sit in the conflict. It's so uncomfortable. It's so uncomfortable. And so I believe that the only way out is through. And the only way through for some people is like, fuck that shit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes why wouldn't I, in a safe space where I'm not hurting anyone with my words, why wouldn't I be able to be like, that person was fucking awful. I cannot stand what they did. And just get it out.
That's healthy.
Yeah.
Because I think if you hold it, you get into that whole hurt people. If you 100%. Hold it, it just like it has physical properties, it finds some other way of getting out and unloading on someone else.
Yeah, we feel our feelings so we don't become our feelings.
Yeah. Yeah.
We feel angry so we don't become angry. So it's like you express it so that you don't become it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I think is
a lot of fucks in a car.
Yeah.
A lot of fucks
sometimes
in the car.
you need to
fuck that shit.
Okay, so your new podcast.
Yes, and we have 2 minutes because I got to pick up Josie. The new podcast. You know what? I'm so excited. I was late to the game on podcasts, and very smart friends would talk about the podcast that they were listening to. And I never really considered myself someone who learned auditorily. I always found that I needed to see things. So I just sort of took podcast out of my I'm not going to like podcasts. And so I was a little bit late to the game. And then I got hooked by Brene Brown.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I started listening, and I found quickly that I actually still would say I take in information better by looking at it. But there was this whole other category that I hadn't considered, which was, and I found quickly that I actually still would say I take in information better by looking at it. But there was this whole other category that I hadn't considered, which was I felt so much listening to her.
Yeah.
I felt it. So I didn't have to learn it. I just had to feel it.
Yeah.
And I think that podcasts are uniquely positioned to be so much for their listeners. And there's so many out there that listeners get to pick what it is that they want to be with, right? Like, because you know they're out there. Like, you want to be angry at the world? There's a podcast for that.
Yeah.
You want to sit in your feelings? There's a podcast for that. You want to do something about a problem? There's a podcast for that. And Camilla and I have been friends, since we met at Gray's, and we weren't fast friends. We didn't click right away. There wasn't this incredible, we saw each other across the room and we were best friends. And we talk about that in the first episode. But we stayed friends through me leaving Gray's and then me moving across the country. And our friendship has always just had a real ease about it in that we talk it out. And we've always been, I think because we love each other so much and because we deal with things similarly, we've been able to speak very honestly with each other. And so when things have been, the hard reflections on an experience, or the maybe the perspective that you're not so interested in hearing sometimes, we are able to speak to with each other and in our friendship. And, the loneliness epidemic is no secret anymore. We all know that people are lonely. People are looking for connection. And while it's sort of parasocial, it's effective. And so starting this podcast was kind of like, all right, listen, everybody's got problems and everybody's got wonderful things to report. So it's not just all bad news, but our idea was to sort of take our friendship and scale it out. How do you open up that friendship circle so that you are including people and sorting through stuff? And we've also come to the saying that feels very accurate, which is that we are unlicensed to advise, but we're going to do it anyways.
Yeah.
And
love it.
and that's sort of where it sits. And I'm wildly excited about it. Even just, being here today with you two, it makes me realize how much can be discovered in the course of an hour where you just are. And the things that you come up to talk about and the things that you get from each other, and being able to look at your faces while we're doing this and get from you what I have gotten is a gift. And so, I'm hoping for more of that.
Yeah. Well, we feel the same with you today.
It's beautiful.
So thank you
really
so
is.
much. Yeah. And this was awesome. Really appreciate it. And so excited for your podcast and to listen.
Thank
and
you.
to have met you, because I've always heard so many wonderful things.
Me too, you. And like I said, the Google search was really, truly only for the nuts and bolts. I was like, but where does she grow up? And where did she do this? And where did she do that?
Well, I appreciate that. But yes, I know. Go get your daughter.
I will.
You're amazing, beautiful mother, human, and we can't wait to listen.